Hi, welcome back to my channel, Stitch and Style by me, Nadia, and today I'm going to do another Friday Sews. If you were following my progress from last week, you'll know that I have been doing my Sew Upcycle 2022 make, and that's turning a duvet cover into a shirt. Now, this is very much a practice kind of garment. It's the first time I've ever done a sleeve placket, and it's the first time I've ever done a collar with a collar stand. So a lot of new things for me, a lot of things to learn, but I really enjoyed the process and I'm very happy with how things have turned out with it. So before I move on to share a little bit more about that make, I'll just let you know what I'm wearing today. It's the Agnes t-shirt by Tilly and the Buttons, and Helen's Closet Blackwood cardigan. And then I was feeling a little bit chilly. I'm working at home today and I want to try and limit how much I have the heating on. So I was actually thinking about this cardigan yesterday, and I had a little bit of a panic that we'd given it away to the charity shop, but fortunately I went looking for it on my lunch and I'd felt sick about giving it away because this was actually knitted by my auntie, my mum's twin sister. Isn't she talented? It's an absolutely beautiful cardigan. It's a cable knit cardigan and it's quite long, nice and long on the sleeve. And I know I was wearing this Blackwood cardigan the other day, but once I've worn something, I like to get as much wear out of it as possible before I put it in the wash. And it was just out, so I thought, oh, you know, I've never like compared these two items of clothing together before. I thought they go actually quite nicely together, quite like them. And then, yes, I put the my other cardigan on top. So here is my finished shirt. And when I saw you last time, I'd done the placket on the sleeves, but I'd not attempted the collar. So I've finished the whole shirt now. It's got a collar on, it's got buttons, that one's undone. And I've chosen these like little shell, I think they are, buttons. And I put it through the wash because if you watched last week, I'd got all markings on it where I'd just wanted to get a neat finish as possible on my placket. Now, I am not claiming that this shirt is anywhere near perfect, and I don't know how much I will wear it because I can see some of the imperfections in it. Having said that, I am actually really happy I tried to make it, how it's gone, and it is a wearable garment. After I tried it on last time and watched it back on the video, then I thought, it does look a bit big. So I sewed the size 14, which was a couple of inches bigger than my own measurements. And I think it's supposed to be a relaxed style shirt anyway. So it was coming up fairly oversized. And what I decided to do was just take some of the width out of it. So I'd done French seams on it and I didn't want to do all that unpicking. So I just cut the seam off and then redid a French seam. So starting but just to this seam here. So I didn't take anything off the arm width. I hope that makes sense. So what I did was basically cut off this seam up to just underneath this seam here. Then I unpicked it slightly here, re-sewed the inner seam for the French seam wrong side together, and then re-sewed it right side together. And you can't tell round here that I've done that, but it just has taken a little bit of the width out of the shirt. So turning to the collar now, I think I've become a little bit obsessed with looking at people's collars, and yeah, every collar, every shirt with a collar, I've been closely examining it, because, and I know what kind of mistake I've made now. So if you see here, like this, I wouldn't be able to, I've put a little top button, I put a little button on it because I'd put one of these size buttons on, but then it wouldn't do up properly without overlapping, and so I tried a smaller button but it still overlaps. For example, so if I do the button on this, it doesn't sit nicely there, it kind of overlaps just at the top and there isn't enough space, so I would never be able to do up the top button on that, which I probably wouldn't do anyway, but it's just a little imperfection because now I've compared this to a collar, I think what I've done is I've gone like straight across and not left enough room. So I'll just get another shirt from my wardrobe and I'll show you how it's supposed to look. So here's a shirt from my wardrobe, and if you see there that it goes around like that, and then the collar starts at kind of where the placket ends. So this bit here is without the collar, and I probably should have examined how it's supposed to look at the end before I sewed it up, because I've gone kind of from there straight to the collar and I've not left enough room here. So yeah, if you compare it to mine, look, it's got no kind of curve. And the other thing to mention is like the texture of this has gone, you can see now here, you can see the interfacing. I don't know whether that's because I used maybe too much steam in my iron, or the iron was a bit too hot for it. I have one of those where you can't control the temperature on it, so I probably just have to use less steam in future to press. So I will try and get some photos of me in the shirt. Hopefully I'll have inserted those in while I'm talking. So I'm glad I've conquered my fear of doing a collar. It didn't go too badly. As I said, it's not perfect, but I know how it's supposed to look next time, and then I can make modifications to it to make sure that I sew it up properly and it's nice and neat. Helen's Closet's patterns are absolutely fantastic. The instructions were so clear, so good. Yeah, the only bit that I struggled on was just here. So yeah, that was my shirt finished. So once I finished my shirt, and I know last vlog I said I was really busy all the time. Well, this weekend I wasn't busy. I had a lovely, relaxed weekend and plenty of time for doing some sewing. So the next thing I wanted to do was, now we're coming up to winter, I'd got this scrap piece of viscose jersey. It's a Lady McElroy fabric, and I think I got it from Minerva. And I made a Tilly and the Buttons Tabitha t-shirt dress with it last year, and it's one of my favourite dresses that I really enjoy wearing. And I had a scrap piece, and so I thought I would try and fit another fall turtleneck by Paper Cut Patterns out of it, because I really love the one I made in the stripy fabric a couple of weeks ago. So I thought I would see if I could fit out that. So I took down the piece of fabric downstairs and lay it on the kitchen floor and was rearranging all the pattern pieces to try and fit it on. The only way I could fit it on was, rather than do the back piece on the fold, is I cut it, I added some seam allowance on and cut the back in two pieces to join together. And I also had to do the same thing with the neck piece, because I couldn't cut that out on the fold either, so I had to do it in 2 pieces, adding seam allowance on to both pieces and then joining them together. And I also had to shorten the sleeves a little bit, but it doesn't make them 3/4 length actually, it just makes them just above my watch. So here it is. And it's a viscose jersey, so it's nice and it's got some nice drape, which I think is lovely for this fall turtleneck. And as you can see, I've got a seam down the back. Now, I wasn't able to cut both of these pieces in the same direction, but it's quite busy, so I don't think you can tell. And anyway, I put the seam down the side to kind of match up with the side seam. One thing I should say is because of this fabric is quite heavy and quite drapey, now with the dress that I've made, it seems to have stretched out quite a lot, and so I was a little bit concerned about the shoulders on these like really dropping. So what I ended up doing was, and a lot of patterns suggest this, sewing some ribbon into the seam to stop it from stretching out. But when then I tried it on, it wasn't sitting nice and flat because it's a drop shoulder and you've got quite a big curve in it. It was sitting like a little bit bumpy, so that didn't really work. How I resolved that was just to put some clips into the ribbon, so it would allow the seam just to curve, and that actually now sits nicely on my shoulder. So that was one thing that I wanted to say about that. Oh, the exciting thing about this make is I used Mariflex thread for the very first time. I can totally see what all the hype is about. So I got it from Minions of Craft. They're the main one that come up when I googled it, so I just went with them and I got it in several colours. So I got black, grey and white, and it's just using a straight stitch, and the Mariflex thread has got a little bit of a stretch to it, as you can see there. So I'm absolutely delighted with this turtleneck. So I cut that out and that got sewn up, and it was just a really quick make, and I'm really happy with that. So that was the next thing that I made, and then I actually got another thing made, because everything that I've seemed to make recently was a new pattern to me, and because I do PDF and have to stick them all together, and then I'm doing a lot of adjustments on things, I thought I just want to use a pattern I've already got and I've already used and I already know I like. So I decided to do the bob pants. Now if you've been following me for a while, you know I did the bob and the Barry pants at the same time to see which ones I prefer, and I don't think I've ever really made up my mind which ones I think I prefer. I just want to, before I start talking about the details of these, is just to thank everybody for their lovely comments on my last video. I had been making a few mistakes and it had given me a little bit of a wobble on my confidence, and I really appreciated everybody's kind comments and reassurances that that's absolutely normal, and it made me feel so much better. So thank you to everybody who left me a comment about that. I don't think the black pants are coming up that well on camera, but here we go. And hopefully I'll have got some pictures of me in the pants. If you don't know about the bob pants, they're style arc pattern, and they've got this barrel shape kind of leg with an elasticated waist, and it's fully elasticated, and it's got slash pockets on. When I got out this pattern, I could just see the progress that I've made since I last made these pants. I have got more used to doing the adjustments, and it was just a really enjoyable sew, this one. Now I have made some adjustments, so I didn't do a proper sway back adjustment last time. I think I just took some of the length off the centre back. So I tweaked that and kind of did the pattern as it was back to how it normally is, and then did the sway back adjustment, and then I've been able to see how much I've added to the length and taken off at the centre back. A sway back adjustment is normal for me, so and I also added some length to the trouser leg. I'll put how much I added down here because I don't have the pattern to hand at the moment. Rather than doing inseam pockets, I've attached the pockets to the waistband. So you can see there that there's the pocket and it's attached into the waistband, so it's not a floppy pocket and it'll stay in place towards the front. You'll be able to see that I've done some top stitching on the elastic. This elastic is actually a little bit thicker than it suggests in the pattern, so I'd also made the waistband a little bit deeper so I could thread the elastic through. I also didn't follow the instructions on how to construct the waistband. I talked about this more in my previous vlog about these pants, and I just did the method that I prefer for a waistband, which is I overlocked all the pieces anyway because Stylark don't tell you when to finish your seams, so I just put every seam through the overlocker before I started sewing, and I actually really enjoyed doing that. So I attached the waistband to the trousers, and then I left a gap so I could thread the elastic through and then sew the elastic together and then just sew up the gap that I'd left. And then obviously I top stitched it in place. And I also didn't do a double fold on the hem of the pants. I just overlocked this piece and then stitched it down with quite a minimal hem because I could have actually lengthened them a little bit more, I think. I'm not 100% sure. I think you only know those kind of things after you've worn them. So I'm quite pleased with what I got made up over the weekend, and I think it was very productive. Now, I don't foresee much in terms of sewing over the next week. I am going to be going away to Birmingham for the Sew Brum event on Friday, which is tonight as you're watching. I'll be travelling there after work with my husband, and then going to spend the day socialising with lots of fellow sewists, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody who's going along. And then on Sunday I'm going to spend the day with my husband, and we're going to go and have a look around Birmingham a little bit more and then travel back on Sunday afternoon or evening. So hopefully that'll be a really nice time, and I'm going to look forward to sharing what I got up to next week. Now, last time I mentioned that I was taking my computerised Janome sewing machine in for a service. So I went to the headquarters in Stockport to drop off my machine. I was told a couple of months ago on the phone when I'd first inquired about it that you didn't need to make an appointment, and actually it was fine in the end. When I got to speak to somebody, he said it was fine for me to just bring the machine along, but I would recommend giving them a call first just in case they need you to book in if you're in the area and want to take your sewing machine for a service. So yeah, I'm without my computerised sewing machine, but I've enjoyed using my manual one. The only real difference that I really find is the needle up and down function. I just love that on my computerised machine. So I set it so I can sew, when I'm sewing, the needle is in the down position every time I stop, and it just makes it so much easier to control fabric and yeah, just having that assurance that it's in the right position. So that's the only real like feature that I miss in comparison to my computerized model and my manual machine. The manual machine does really good buttonholes. The manual is also Janome, and I was actually recommended to go for Janome by the tutors where they taught me to sew. So I got a really basic model, but it does have a one-step buttonhole, and it does do really nice buttonholes, and each one on my shirt went in absolutely perfectly. But I do like the luxury of having two machines, so when one's out of action then I've got one to use, and that's actually the reason why I bought another machine, because my manual machine had broken, and this was at the beginning of lockdown, and I was just starting to do some dressmaking for the very first time, and my manual machine actually broke down. And because everybody was sewing in lockdown and wanted their machines serviced and fixed and things, then there was a really long wait for the machine to be fixed. I ordered it and it came the next day. So I was hardly without any time without a machine. So it was when I was like full of enthusiasm and wanting to learn how to dressmake, and yeah, I didn't want to be without a machine. So that's why I do have two. In the end, actually, after ringing round quite a few places, I just went to the local repair shop. They said, you know, depending on parts were at the time just taking a long time to come in. So he said, depending on what parts you need, it might be like up to 3 weeks. So, but in the end, it only took him a couple of days. I think I had it back within 3 days. And he said, oh, it's a nice little machine, this. And I was like, yes, I've just bought another one. So that's why I have two machines. I know I'm very spoilt, really, and I am very grateful for still being able to sew, even though one of my machines is in for its service. Enough blathering on about machines. I don't know what the next thing is that I'm going to sew. I'm just going to try and be free and easy. I did sneak in my husband's shirting fabric into the wash. I was thinking we've only got 5 weeks now before our wedding anniversary, because it's on the 5th of December. So I've really got to get thinking about doing his shirt. So that is going to be a definite plan for the next few weeks, to get started on that. And I tried to throw him off the scent. So I was saying, oh, you know, it's not long now until like our holiday, and I'll make you some t-shirts. So he seemed happy with that. So I was trying to kind of imply that I wouldn't have time to make him a shirt, but hopefully I will do. So thanks so much for listening to me. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. And appreciate all your likes, comments, subscribes and everything. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.